यशोदनन्दन व्रज रञ्जन यमुनतीरानचारि जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
हरे Gauranika Jaya Gauranika
Jaya Gauranika, Jaya Gauranika, Jaya Gauranika, Jaya Gauranika.
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Shila Prabhupada
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Jaya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jaya Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Om Shubhada Brahmhamsa Parashika Jai Astutara Shikha Shishimati His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Jai Om Shubhada Brahmhamsa Parashika Jai Astutara Shikha Shishimati His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki
Jai.
Vinanta Koti Vaishya Vrinda Ki
Jai.
Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam Ki
Jai.
All glories to assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to assembled
Hare
devotees.
Krishna.
All glories to assembled
Hare
devotees.
Krishna.
All glories to Shri Guru and Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining ISKCON Detroit Devasadar morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Just want to make sure. Okay, so before we begin, we'll just say a small prayer and then we'll open our Srimad Bhagavatam. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om 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 Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayam Namaskritya.
Narayana Namaskritya.
Naram Chaivam Narottama.
Naram Saiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jaya Udirye.
Tato Jayamadire.
Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu.
Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu.
Nitbhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama-shloke.
Bhagavate Uttama-shloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki.
Bhakti-Vedinishti.
So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 4, which is entitled The Appearance of Sri Narada Muni, and we are on text 22. Yes, okay. Atharva Agnir Rasam Asit
Atharvanga Samasis.
Sumantur Daruno Munihi
Sumantur Daruni.
Itihasa Purananam
Itihasanam.
Pita Me Romaharshanaha
Pita Maharsana.
Atharvanir Gira Sama Asit
Atharvangira Samasis.
Sumantur Durano Munihi
Sumantur Daruni.
Itihasa Puranana
Itihasa Purananam.
Pita Me Romaharshanaha Atharva Nigar. Sorry, I just have a hard time pronouncing that. Atharva Asam Asit
Atharvangira Samasis.
Samantur Durano Munihi
Sumantur Daruni.
Itihasa Purananam
Itihasa Purananam.
Pita Me Romaharshaha.
Pita Me Romaharshaha.
Anyone who would like to try?
Atharvangira Samasit.
Atharvangira Rasamasit
Sumantur Daruni.
Sumantur Darunihi
Itihasa Purananam.
Itihasa Purananam
Pita Mero Maharshana.
Pita Mero Maharshana
Arvan Giru Asam Asit
Atharvangira Samasit.
Sumantur Durula Muni
Sumantarno Muni.
Itihasa Purananam
Itihasa Purananam
Pitami Roman Harsana
Pita Maharshana. One day. Atharva,
Atharva.
the Atharva Veda,
The Atharva Veda.
Angirasam,
Girasam.
onto the Rishi Angira,
Unto the Rishi Angira.
Asit,
Asit.
was entrusted,
Was entrusted.
Sumantu,
Sumantu.
also known as Sumantu Muni,
Also known as Sumantu Muni.
Arunaha,
Daruna.
seriously devoted to the Atharva Vedas,
Seriously devoted to the Atharva Veda.
Muni,
Muni.
the sage,
The sage.
Itihasa Puranana,
Itihasa.
of the historical records and the Puranas,
The historical records and the Puranas.
Pita,
Pita.
father,
Father.
me, mine, Roma Harshana,
Roma Harshana.
the Rishi Roma Harshana.
The Rishi Roma Harshana.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation. The Samantu Muni Angira, who was very devotedly engaged, was entrusted with the Atharva Vedas. My father, Roma Harshana, was entrusted with the Purana and historical records. Please repeat. The Sumantu Muni Angira,
The Sumantu Muni Angira,
very devotedly engaged,
who was very devotedly engaged,
was entrusted with the Atharva Veda.
was entrusted with the Atharva Veda.
And my father, Roma Harshana,
Roma Harshana
was
was entrusted
with the Puranas and historical records.
with the Puranas historical records.
Purport. In the Shruti mantras, also it is stated that Angira Muni, who strictly followed rigid principles of the Atharva Veda, was the leader of the followers of the Atharva Veda. Very short. Om Jnana Timiraya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swatikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Runatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptaka Rangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Arnamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracha Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashata Deshatarine Jai Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna, I'll read the translation one more time. Sumantu Muni Angira, who was very devotedly engaged, was trusted with the Atharva Veda, and my father, Roma Harshana, was entrusted with the Puranas and historical records. So, In this chapter, we've been talking about the various Vedas and stuff that was written, and even in the past, we hear about some of the Vedas were split into 4 divisions: the Rig, Yajur, and Sama, and then this is the Atharva. So the 4 divisions of the Vedas. Originally, there was one when it came to Satya Yuga's time. There was one, but as time progressed, they became divided up for better understanding. So today I thought what we can do is just learn a little bit more about who Muni is and one of his pastimes, in which how he explained. There's a couple things that are out of this verse. So Angira Muni, he was here talked about as being in the purport, leader of the followers of the Atharva Vedas. So he was essentially leading the Veda, the Atharva Vedas. He's also a very wonderful, very exalted rishi that we'll find out. So, you know, that position he also has. So leader, he's a very exalted rishi that we find out. And then, you know, we talked about last couple classes that I did was superheroes. And Angira Rishi is one of those superheroes. We'll talk about that as well too. So the blessings of all of you. These are new topics to me, so hopefully we can explain it in a way that everyone can understand and maybe get a little bit out of it. I also am not very well studied in Angira Rishi, but I was happy to hear about him and learn some stuff that I like to share today. So Angira Rishi is a great sage, and along with the sage Atharvan, they're credited for formulating, or basically back in those days they would do through hearing, right? Not everything was written down until Vyasadeva came, so it was through hearing. The most fortunate, which is hearing about this 4th Veda, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is the 4th one, the Atharva Vedas. He's also mentioned in the other 3 Vedas. So he's in a position where he heard through multiple Vedas, his stories. Also, just he's a personality that we will keep hearing about over and over again. So it's good to get to know who he is. While the list differs from what text to text, no doubt from the age to age it can also differ, but Angira is often one of the Sapta Rishis. Sapta is 7 rishis. So 7 great sages of the very first Manvantara. So remember we talked about the different yugas, there's different Manvantaras, like the whole Vedic time, how it's split up. So in the very Manvantara, there were the 7 great sages. We talked about the Matsya avatar in the past, the fish incarnation of the Lord, right? And how he also, during that flood that occurred, he saved the 7 rishis on the boat, right? So they wouldn't get involved, and the continuation of Vedas would be there. He's also known as one of the 10 Manasa Putras, the women sons of Lord Brahma. So Angira Rishi's father is actually Lord Brahma. And Manasaputra means that he was born from the mind. So we'll talk a little bit. But the wife, so Angira Rishi was also a grahastha. So his wife is Surupa, and they bore 3 sons. Uttaya, Samvartana, and Brihaspati. So these were the 3 sons of Angira Rishi. Brihaspati is probably the one that's more famous that people know. The other accounts are found referring to the Rishi's marriage. So there was also a few other wives, Sumriti, the daughter of Daksha, and Ada. So 2 other wives. The name Angira Rasa is applied generically to several Puranic individuals and things, a class of Pitta rishis. Pitris are ancestors. We hear in Srimad Bhagavatam, like the planet of the Pitras, right? The planet of the ancestors of man. So he's also considered known as like the leader or the head of the class of the Pitris, who may be descended from the sage of Angiras. In the Rig Veda, Agni is also sometimes referred to Angiras as a descendant of Angiras. Agneya is the daughter of Agni, and Agnayi is considered to be the mother of Angiras. He was born from the mind of Brahma as the father, but then also from fire. From the mind of Lord Brahma, but also in fire. It was said that Lord Brahma, he created Angiras, that there were like hot coals, and so from the mind, from the hot coals, he created Angiras, a rishi. So let's talk about his birth a little bit more. So why did Lord Brahma do so? So Lord Brahma was in charge of creation, right? We've talked about that before. And so in order for him to continue this process, in order to assist him in this process of creation, Lord Brahma created his first sons. So the Manas Putra is son, Manas is from the mind, and so he created these sons, and then he also created the Prajapatis. And after some time, by his will, so by Lord Brahma's will, he gave birth to another son from his buddhi, or from his mind, and mind meaning more of like the divine intellect, right? Lord Brahma, like intellect. This is the son Angira Rasa, which is Angira Muni, or Rishi Muni. So Brahma granted him a very divine glow, which is not like a physical glow, but rather transcendental emanation that can fill the three worlds. He was very important. So he gave these, like when he was born, he gave these instructions to Angira Rishi. Lord Brahma had said, "O Angiras, you are my third Manasaputra, one born out of divine intellect. My creation is multiplying with several worlds and species." Right? So Lord Brahma, from the navel of Lord Vishnu, but then he creates all these planetary systems. And then within all the planetary system, 14 planetary systems, just in one universe, right? He has to create the different species of life, 8.4 million species of life, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on. So, humans and other species are growing in numbers and generations. The welfare of this creation is your purpose. So Angiras was born to help in the welfare of all of these species. Okay? So your mission is to come to me whenever I remember or recall you and fulfill my word from time to time. Whatever I design as your duty for the welfare of creation, you must do. You must go on a very long and unbroken penance and bequeath its fruit to the welfare of all beings in this creation. You must remain so until I order you again to take up family life, or grahastha asam. So when she was born, right, he did all this penance in order to get the empowerment from his father, in order to take care of all of this, to make sure the web of all of creation is going to fall under him, right? So in order for that to happen, he did all of this penance. And when it was time, then he took to Grahastha ashram, but in the beginning, it was, he went through a lot of penances. And then Angira Rishi also replied back to his father, Lord Brahma, saying that you are the reason for my birth and all of this creation, and therefore you are all my Lord. You create us with infinite and unconditional love. You are all-knowing, you are omnipotent, you create me with a purpose in mind. Though you do not need anybody's assistance, you need to do this penance. I shall consider it as your grace and opportunity to serve you. I will obey your every word. So, a very dutiful son. Angira proceeded to perform intense penances, turning his senses inward and meditating on Parabrahma. His glow increased infinitely by this penance. Having attained many divine qualities, powers, and riches, and control over many worlds, Angiras still remains oblivious to material desires. So even though through this penance, right, even though he received all of this, it did not increase his material desires. He still stayed very much spiritual in this process. He did not stop his sacrifice, his tapas, right? He thus attained the state of Maharishi. So the great Rishi had visions of many Vedic mantras and brought them to this earthly planet, where he was known as the source of a great number of Vedic hymns and mantras. Creation was blessed by the wisdom of his words. So through his penance, he received all this wisdom, received all this. Back then, these rishis were so powerful. Like, we can't even imagine. We barely remember, like, I don't know if you're anything like me, like, I don't remember what happened yesterday or a single phone number, right? Like, but these rishis had such incredible ability to, even from hearing it just once, they attained all knowledge and stuff. So these Brahma rishis were not ordinary living entities. You know, these were extraordinary, powerful, full of knowledge individuals, and their specific purposes of why they were here and what they were supposed to do. So the Atharva Vedas is one, so going to the Vedas now, so this is one of the 4 Vedas, which are the oldest authoritative scriptures in Hinduism, or in our Sanatana Dharma. It is a collection of hymns, prayers, and different incantations, often dealing with practical matters of health, protection, and daily life. The Vedas are traditionally divided into the 4 parts. So in the beginning, as I said, like during the Satya Yuga time and stuff, there was only the need for one Veda. There wasn't so many divisions. But eventually, the divisions happened, and they were divided into the Rig, Yajur, Sama, and this Atharva Veda. The Atharva Veda is unique because it contained more of the practical, everyday focus on addressing things like healing, magic, social customs, in addition to spiritual teachings. So it was a very practical part of the Vedas that helped a lot with this healing process. So one of the stories that Angira Rishi, one of the pastimes that he's involved with, he comes in many parts in the Srimad Bhagavatam and stuff. He comes even during, like, when Krishna did his pastimes in this particular world. But one of the stories which comes in Canto 6 is of Chitraketu Maharaj. Have you guys heard of King Chitraketu? Chitraketu in Canto 6. Okay, so I'll briefly mention the story. So King Chitraketu wanted to have a son, because, right, when you leave, the person who takes care of the kingdom is your son, the next, the next generation. So Chitraketu was married to 10 million wives, okay? But he had no kids. He was not blessed with any children. So he did very much pray, sacrifice, all these things. And when the great sage Angira Rishi visited, Chitraketu very warmly welcomed him. And he expressed his dissatisfaction. I have 10 million wives, but I have no sons. What am I to do, right? Who is going to take over this kingdom? These are the worries of the king. And so he explained this dissatisfaction to Angira Rishi, who had mercifully arranged for his first wife, Krita Dyuti, to have a son. So these rishis, again, very powerful. They understand these mantras and Vedas and everything. They have the ability to help in this process so that his first wife could have a son. But there was a caveat in this, and he had told the king, right? Okay, help you bear a son in your wife, but here's the situation. This son will bring you both happiness and great distress, great lamentation. So you have to be aware, this child will have a short life, right? But you will get great happiness, but you will also receive great distress. So the king, to have a son, was just like, okay, let's just, we'll figure it out. Want a son. So upon the birth of the son, the king, Chitraketu, and all the citizens, they were so overjoyed, right? The birth of a son. Finally, after all the time and 10 million wives later, you have a son. So his dream had finally been fulfilled. Now, you have 10 million wives, and you have a son from one wife, all right? This will cause a little bit of an issue. So the other wives didn't share the joy of this, why you and why not me, which is the source of, right? So that also happened. So they didn't feel the joy. They were, feeling very neglected and sidelined by their husband, because here's this wife with this son now, and all his attention went there. So clouded by envy and overcome by selfishness, they actually created a plan and administered poison to that child and killed him. So Krita Druti obviously completely fainted in shock at the death of her son. The inhabitants of the palace were filled with tears. So now you went from great joy to devastation, distress, sadness. Chitraketu, the king himself practically lost all his consciousness, right? He was just completely devastated. So the mother condemned the cruel act of providence. So she's blaming God and, begging her child to wake up, right? But it was futile, once the soul leaves the body, does anyone return back from death? So understanding their pain, though, again, powerful rishis, the sage Narada, as well as Angira, arrived on the scene to enlighten them with some words. So I know it's been a while, but we had talked about superheroes, right? And the fact that in the time, we gave the example like Superman and so forth, when there's great distress, the superhero flies in and saves the day kind of thing, right? So here, Narada Muni and Angira Rishi are flying in to save the day, right? So these rishis, these sages, these very powerful individuals, they come at the right time, at the right place, in the right moment to give this particular knowledge. We see that with Srila Prabhupada. When he traveled from India to America, it wasn't like in the early days as far as like him being young or like in the beginning or when he first received the instruction from his spiritual master. It took him years and years before he could even come here, right? He didn't come here till like his 70s, right? 60s, 70s. So if we think about it, but he came at the right time, in the right place, at the right moment. The position of America at that time, with the alternate culture, the hippie movement, everything was happening, people were looking at some things, right? And at that time is when Srila Prabhupada came. And how many people, how much did the Hare Krishna movement explode at that time, right? So this is the way Krishna works, right? And these great sages, these great individuals have this ability to come at the right place at the right time to relieve the distress of the human society. So same thing happened, right? Now, these great sages, Angira and Narada, explained, now how does a great sage or a great Muni or a great saint explain things, right? They're not going to just materially help you. Oh, do you need a few dollars or son? You need they're not going to help you on a bodily platform. So Narada Muni and Gira Rishi, when they came, they explained the relationship between the father and son, that it's not actually fact, right? It is simply a representation of the illusory energy. And we'll hear this time and time again. We hear about this lesson in Bhagavad Gita. We hear about these lessons throughout Bhagavatam. That these family relationships are like, I think even Braj Kumar Prabhu had said this in one of his lectures, right? It's like sand on the shore. The sands come in and the sands go out. These relationships are here right now in this time, place, and circumstances. And in the next time, place, and circumstances, these relationships will scatter again, right? So I am children's mother just in this lifetime. That's it. They're my sons just in this lifetime. After this birth, they will have other mothers and other fathers, as will I will have other sons, right? So this understanding is something that Chitraketu was very much into. I'm just gonna finish this one thing. So Narada and Angira Rishi was mainly that this relationship did not exist before, nor does it stay in the future, right? It's the arrangement of time. This relationships exist only in the present. So one should not lament for these temporary relationships. Same thing was happening on the battlefield with Arjuna and Krishna, right? Oh, this is my grandfather, this is my teachers, these are my, family members on the other side. But you do not lament for these temporary relationships. It takes care of that. So the entire cosmic manifestation is temporary. Although it's not unreal, because this exists, but it's not factual in the sense that it's temporary. They're not permanent relationships we're dealing with. Relative. And by the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything is created in this material world is transient, right? It's constantly changing, constantly temporary. So a child begets a father, or father begets a child, or a living entity becomes a child of a so-called father. These are all temporary arrangements. And so he explained this to King Chitraketu. And through this process, through the process of the help from Narada Muni, the king was able to relieve himself from this false information, or false lamentation. This goes on in Canto 6 for some time. There's a couple chapters dedicated, chapter 15 in Canto 6 is dedicated to these lessons that they're giving to the king, and to understand what is our true spiritual identity. Because when one understands your spiritual identity and surrenders to the Supreme Lord, right, then one becomes actually happy. So in the search of happiness, one must, when we lament these bodily relationships, it's very futile, right? It's just so, doesn't mean we're heartless, right? Because we do have affection, we have to have a soft heart, otherwise how can Krishna come into our heart, right? If we're very heartless in these things. But we have what they call self-realization. We understand this knowledge to the point where okay, I'm your friend in this lifetime. One day you will go, one day I will go. But it doesn't mean that we don't show affection and friendship together, right? That we don't care for each other, that we don't help each other. We help each other, not necessarily always on a belief platform, but we help each other on a spiritual platform. Let us, serve Krishna together. Let us come to devotional service together. Let us engage in those types of relationships together, right? Because that's ultimately what gives us the happiness. So the spiritual realization that happens is one's relationship to Krishna. And by that relationship, when Krishna is in the center of our relationship, then where does the happiness, eternality, right? Knowledge, bliss, everything comes from that and stuff. So essentially, these rishis, this is just one brief story, but these rishis have this ability to come and become a hero in a certain point in place. place, right? We talked about Sutta Goswami being a hero. All of these, Srila Prabhupada, they come during this point of distress, right? To help save that particular soul. These rishis, amazing. How do we know also that these are amazing individuals, amazing rishis? Because we hear from them and they have the ability to perfect our lives, right? He was a leader of the Atharvas, so he gave this knowledge so that we can understand who the absolute truth is. What is devotional service? How do we develop our relationship to Krishna? So these leaders aren't any ordinary, they're inspired, right? Difference between a leader and a manager. Manager is task-oriented, right? We have to get this done, we have to get this done, we have to get this done. Where's my team? How do I do it? Right? But a leader is there to inspire change, to one's transformation, to inspire someone, to develop and become motivated to reach a goal. For example, to go back home, back to Godhead. That could be a great goal, right? But how do they do that? They inspire us through their actions, through their abilities, and through their words. So this is a little bit about Angira Rishi. There's so much more about him. He does come up multiple times, so it's a good name to remember. But yeah, he's a very powerful individual. So, Prabhu, I'm sorry. If you had a question, please.
A comment about what you were talking about.
Yeah.
My best friend, I don't know if you know it, my best friend passed away back in October. 45 years of friendship since we were 15. And of course, I was really distraught about it. And I was talking to Raj Kumar about it. And he asked me this question that just really made me think. He said, do you have the children from your past lives? Do you lament the children from your past lives? Do you miss the children and mourn the children from your past lives? Of course you don't.
Yeah.
So why should we mourn those relationships then?
Yeah.
If we don't mourn something as important in this life as our families are to us in this life, then what to say about spring from past lives?
Yeah.
So it's
That's beautiful.
yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
It really is, and it really gave me a lot of comfort. It kind of sounds harsh at first glance, but when you realize the big picture, it really says a lot. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And again, sorry for your loss. Like, you have feeling, you have you should not be hurt about it. There was always feeling behind it. But yes, through Krishna consciousness, through understanding this knowledge that your soul and not body, you come to that understanding, right? That yes, this was his time. I appreciate and I have great gratitude and appreciation for the relationship I had and so forth. Like, you don't have to forget that, but at the same time, it doesn't, you're so distraught that you can't
keep going.
Can't keep going. Can't live. You're right.
Robert, I'm sorry you're gone, but I've got a lot of stuff left to do.
Yeah.
I've got a lot left to do.
Yeah. You
And I
appreciate
don't
it.
have a lot of years to do it. I'm 60. I'm not going to be. If I'm here 20 more years, I'll be happy. If I'm here 10 more years, I'll be happy. Okay.
I wanted to tell you the similar thing. Like the history of the universe and this, right? It's way long back. How many billions of years, right? And when were you born?
Yeah, it's 64 this time.
60 years. So you are worried about the life of 40 years of relationship with your friend?
Right.
How many billions?
How many
What is
best
the
friends
eternal
have
thing?
we?
Yeah.
Eternal thing is the soul. So we have to focus more on that.
Well, Raj Kumar told me something else that really helped me. When he came to visit me the last time I saw him back in February before he passed, he came to the temple with me and went before all the deities. Came home with the Gita, chant and be happy, and a mala.
Wow.
So he did chant some rounds.
You just perfected his life.
I
That's
didn't do
amazing.
anything. He was just here at the right time.
But that's it. See, the right place at the right
Well,
time. That's
you're
what
right.
Krishna arranges these things. This is not ordinary acts. These aren't like, you know, just like, oh, this just happened. We're like, no, things just don't happen. Like,
Yeah.
they're all arranged specifically. And that is the great power of a devotee, right? That they have the ability, you don't even know it, but you could possibly change someone and get them in touch and put the seed of devotion into their heart. Whether it happens in this lifetime or not, but then who knows, in the next lifetime, he could be born as a devotee and like starts where his bhakti left off. We know that happens. So that's amazing.
Yeah,
All glories.
it gives me a lot of comfort.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really sad. He was a recovering alcoholic. He had gotten his degree in addiction recovery, and he succumbed to drug use after all.
Yeah.
So it was really sad. It was very very sad. But like I said, we came here. He loved it.
That's awesome.
He said Radha winked at him. He said Radha winked at him
Okay.
when he was here. And I don't doubt it, knowing him, because he's way more spiritual advanced than I ever was.
Wow. Jay. Nice. Thank you for sharing,
Thank
Prabhu.
you.
Any other questions, thoughts, comments?
You do class so nicely.
No,
I mean, keep it interesting.
Hare
The
Krishna.
KISS theory, keep it simple, stupid.
Say that again.
The KISS theory, keep it simple.
I have to keep it simple, stupid, because that's just me. So I don't have such knowledge, but that's the beauty of Srila Prabhupada. He gave this information in such wonderful ways, so simple to understand. And so I cannot be so grateful to him. Like, it's just
Well,
someone like me can hopefully understand and
we are
live by
really-
this. So
We are really indebted
glories
to
to
you and your problem. You guys just do so much for everyone.
it's wonderful. But thank you all for joining day after day. It's very nice. Thank you for everyone who's online too. And tomorrow we'll start with text 23. So Jai Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.